CK, you also said something that really struck a chord in my heart as well. I'm an immigrant. I fled from Venezuela, collectivist country, and I came to the United States, which we I was perceived this as a child that the United States is the land of opportunity, the land of hope, the land of dreams. But the White House last week basically positioned itself in a way, and I always reference the report specifically by the Treasury. It's called The Future of Money. And that report, they said that the only innovations that have happened are stable coins and payment systems that include PayPal, Venmo, all that stuff. They mention nothing of Bitcoin, and they say they do take some jabs. They say um, at less energy efficient cryptos. But they also, at the very end, they said, we want central bank digital currencies, and central bank digital currencies, with the central bank being the anchor of the economy, is what we envision ourselves for the future of the United States. Now, that to me tells me where their stance is, how they're going to approach this, right? And then tie this in with the theory from the sovereign individual, how governments are going to become increasingly more hostile. And you told me, you said, Nico, I'm going to plant my flag here. I'm going to stay here in Nashville. I'm going to fight it out in Nashville. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Does it worry you? Does this language from the Treasury, does this language from the most powerful government the world has ever seen, does that concern you at all? That this is their stance, this is where they want to go. They want people on slave money, also known as central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with like Bitcoiners need to like one of the most important things of a sovereign individual is the world changes by people voting with their feet. And effectively the ultimate end result of Bitcoin being invented and digital hard currency that is cryptographically insured and trustless is the ability for me to take my value and go to a different jurisdiction without any of the shackles of the past. So the past, it's like you weave gold into your clothing. Like if you have any property, kiss it goodbye. If you have anything in the banking system, kiss it goodbye. Like, you really have to forego everything to leave your jurisdiction. And Bitcoin effectively offers you an opportunity to not have to make that choice. So that is the ultimate end goal is you can say, see you later. I'm taking my sats and I'm going somewhere that's going to treat me and my money better. So that's the end. That's the end goal. So I think like jurisdictional arbitrage, like that is our main weapon. Like that is the weapon of the future. That is the mechanism in which the world changes is through jurisdictions competing with each other. I think specifically in the United States, that dynamic has existed for a long time. You have states with a lot of sovereignty that can make their own rules and that they can kind of go toe to toe. And then people can move from state to state without having to make the choice of do I give up everything? Because they can have their same ID, they can have their same bank account, they can, they effectively have some mobility with their value within the US. So I moved from California to Tennessee. Like, I think I'm taking advantage of jurisdictional arbitrage. I see the United States as, one, you can look at it as like the country with the most to lose, but also as the country with best position to fight for freedom because of all the things that make the United States different than the rest of the world. And, we've seen even in the COVID pandemic that the jurisdictional arbitrage within the US like made the US a lot better than most countries like Canada, England, everywhere in the EU, like China, you had no choice, right? But here I am. I could say, hey, screw California. I'm going to Utah so I can get a haircut. True story. That happened. So, yeah, I think that like the U.S. is positioned well for us here in the U.S. to kind of make a stand in hospitable places and leverage those hospitable places to try to push forward the Bitcoin agenda that's happening in Texas, that's happening in Tennessee, it's happening roughly in Florida. Although I think the altcoiners may have their way there, but and we're seeing those states on like a macro like conversation level, like they're winning too.
Yeah, yes.
Like in the world is like, whoa, these states are winning. So I do think that there is hope, but at the same time, I think we need to stay vigilant and like if the US does go the way of all large countries that have a lot to lose in this transition, like we have to be open to moving, right?
Yep.
And we have to be open to going to a different jurisdiction. So, you know, that it's a really difficult situation. It's nuanced, but I'm not quite ready to fully abandon the US. There's reasons for me to think that the US will actually potentially be hospitable to Bitcoin, and especially in hospitable states. But you know, if things change dramatically, I'm going to be flexible.
Yes, yes. So, and that, I guess, we're all moving to El Salvador. That's what it looks like. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, I do agree. I think that, some states, specifically Texas, I see it as the Bitcoin Alamo state. You saw the wording from Greg Abbott, right? Potentially we might see a similar situation than the marijuana industry, where in certain states, actually on a federal level, marijuana is illegal, but on a state level, like California, Colorado, it's legal, right? And of course, there's a little bit of conflict between the federal government and the state level, but the federal government doesn't have the resources to go after everybody in California. Perhaps Bitcoin follows a similar route, but at the end of the day, it's money, and that is the main source of power from government. So it might be slightly different, but anyways, I really enjoyed this. That's right, guys. $1 million Bitcoin, $10 million Bitcoin is too bearish. Don't over leverage yourself. Try to stack as much sats as humanly possible with these prices. It's under 20K. Pause the show right now, stack some sats. Anyways, let's get to the culture.